Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of York, the 26th largest Rotary club in the world and a club dedicated to imagining and living out the Rotary mission of service above self. I'm Glenn Miller, the club president. Our opening song today, America the Beautiful, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by President-elect Aaron Jacobs. A special invocation for this week following observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day will be led by Cal Weary, and our visitors and visiting Rotarians will be introduced by Wade Williams. Please take a moment to silence your electronic devices.
Thank you, President Glenn. Rotarians, please join me. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Ghana, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee. The cry is always the same. We want to be free. Individually, we are poor. And when you compare us with white society in America, we are poor. Never stop to forget that collectively, that means all of us together, collectively, we are richer than all the nations of the world. Did you ever think about that? After you leave the United States, Soviet Russia, Great Britain, West Germany, France, and I could name others, the American Negro collectively is richer than most nations of the world. We have an annual income of more than $30 billion a year, which is more than all the exports of the United States and more than the national budget of Canada. Did you know that? That's power right there, if we know how to use it. We don't have to argue with anybody. We don't have to curse and go around acting bad with our words. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go around to these stores and these massive industries in our country and say, God sent us here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. And we've come here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment. Where God's children are concerned, now you must be prepared to do that. We have an agenda that we must follow, and our agenda calls for the withdrawing of our economic support from you. Let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness. Let us stand with a greater determination, and let us move on these powerful days to challenge America to be the greatness that it is. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation, and we want to thank God once more for allowing us to be here. You know, several years ago, I was in New York City autographing the first book that I had written. And while sitting there autographing books, a Black woman came up to me and questioned me. She said, "Are you Martin Luther King?" And I was looking down and I wrote and I said, "Yes." And the next minute, I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital. It was a dark Saturday afternoon, and that blade had gone through. The x-rays revealed that the tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta, the main artery. And once that's punctured, you drown in your own blood. That's the end of you. It came out in New York Times the next day that if I had sneezed, I would have died. Well, about 4 days later, they allowed me to read some letters. And I got letters from everyone, even from the president and the vice president, but I don't remember those. The one that I do remember came from a 9th grader in White Plains, from a White Plains school. And she said, "While it should not matter, I would like to mention that I am a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and your suffering, and I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. And I'm simply writing to you to say that I am so happy that you did not sneeze." And I want to say tonight that I too am happy that I did not sneeze. Because if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around to here in 1960 when students all over the South started sitting in at lunch counters. And I knew that they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in America and the American dream for the whole nation. Back to those great wells of democracy, which were dug deep in the founding fathers and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and end segregation in the interstate travel. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been here in 1962 when Negroes in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because man can't ride your back unless it's bent. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been there in 1963 when the Black people of Birmingham, Alabama aroused the consciousness of this nation and brought to its civil rights and the Civil Rights Bill. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance that later that year in August to try and tell America about a dream that I had. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Selma, Alabama to see great movement there. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around brothers and sisters who are suffering. I'm so happy I did not sneeze. And they are telling me now it does not matter. It really doesn't matter what happens now. And then I get to Memphis, and some begin to say that there are threats and talk of threats. What would happen to me from a sick person? Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And so I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Thank you.
I am pleased to have the honor of introducing our guest for today's meeting. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until President Glenn has welcomed you. All of these folks are guests of youth leadership. Blake Krupinski, Olivia Leslie, Kasten Krupinski, Krista Templeton, Joanne Wilmore, Brandon Grunden, Jill Kovach, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs, Catherine Groover, guest of Bernice Quisenberry, Bob Farrell, guest of past President Di Hershey, Lauren Hershey, guest of John Eister, Cora Taylor, guest of Andy Rowitz, and Jane Bachman, guest of Glenn Miller.
Friends, we are delighted that you are here with us today as guests. I'm confident that you will enjoy our program and that you will enjoy the lively group of diverse and engaged community leaders that surround you today. I hope you'll return to visit with us again and perhaps even consider joining our ranks. Rotarians, let's welcome our visitors. You may be seated. Several announcements for the good of the order. We don't always welcome Rotarians back who have been gone for a while, but there are certain special circumstances that make that wholly appropriate. I hope I don't embarrass him, but Jim May, it is a delight to see you and to have you back. On more mundane notes, the CEF board will meet today at 1:30 in the Elmer Smith Room immediately following our meeting. The Service Above Self Committee meets today at 1:30 in the Terrace Room here at CCY. The Youth Exchange Committee meets tomorrow at high noon via Zoom. That's a bring your own lunch. And the IDEA Committee will meet on January 23rd at 8 a.m. via Zoom. A reminder that we are once again hitting the road for our Wednesday meeting. On February the 1st, we will be off-site at Penn State York. As always for these kind of affairs, you must register to attend this event by January the 25th in this case. You may register by using the fancy QR code on your table. Just pull your smartphone out and do that, or by following the link in the announcer that has gone out to you. We hope that everybody will come to that day. We have a few photos to share, courtesy of Ken Cooper from yesterday's Fellowship Committee networking tour of Biotechnique. You will all remember that the president, John, from Biotechnique was one of our speakers not too long ago. In slide 1, you can see 17 people enjoying lunch and a lovely tour of their remarkable and huge facility. You can also, in slide 2, I see that they enjoyed fellowship and fun. Don't they look like they're having fun? In slide 3, you will see that Aaron Jacobs is apparently not having fun. Not sure what's going on here. Maybe they refused to let him sing. I don't know. In slide 4, we have here the rose between the two thorns. It appears to me that Rob and Josh are wondering if this gizmo may be bruised beer. And Courtney's pondering how she can help the club recover in her year of presidency from Aaron. And in slide 5, it's great to see our club members having great new experiences together and making connections, particularly with those who have come and spoken to us. Thanks to Rob Bowen, as always, our king of fellowship, for arranging that tour. Thanks very much, Rob. And now the dynamic duo of Debbie Ashway and Diane Marino have a few words to share from the Student Education Committee. Ladies.
All right, it's just me. So I'm Debbie Ashway, your new student education chair, and I'm going to share some updates from the past year. The scholarships have a new presence on our website. So if you go to Impact, click Impact, and then scroll down and you click on York Rotary Scholarships, that'll bring you to the new scholarship page, and it lists all of our scholarship. I believe there's 11 on here, and it gives a picture and it has a description and the award amount by each scholarship. So I invite you to take a look and read about the history and generosity of all of our scholarships. If you're interested in giving the gift of education, you too can create a scholarship. The most recent is a non-traditional scholarship that was created in 2021 in the honor of Bert, our executive coordinator, who retired from our club in 2021. The Student Education Committee via the CEF Board has joined with TFAC, the Foundation for Enhanced Communities, to facilitate our online portal and to help expose and award our generous scholarships. The non-traditional scholarship has been our most difficult scholarship to obtain applications. So our committee is asking for your help in finding these applicants. So who do you know that wants to get into education later in life to advance themselves? So an example would be perhaps someone who dropped out of high school, is a single mom, and now wants to further her education. Another example might be a veteran that has served X number of years and now wants to further his education. That's the type of people that we're looking for the non-traditional. So if you think you have a candidate, direct them to our Rotary website and just have them fill out the application. And of course, if you have any questions, you can contact me or anybody on the committee. Applications are open now through March 15th. So I'll see you up here later in the spring, summer to hand out all of our scholarships. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to the great work of that committee. As you know, and as was alluded to, there's been a change in the last couple of years on how those scholarships are administered. Last year, I think, was the first year for the new system, and we really saw the fruits of that with a much larger number of applications. So technology works, just like those QR codes on your tables. But whatever we can do to help with particularly that non-traditional path, which is so important, and we've got some great funds available for that. Let's do what we can to make that happen. So thank you very much. And now, dovetailing nicely with student scholarships to our student of the month, people who might want scholarships at a certain point. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Eric Chase to the podium.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to introduce you to students in their junior year at Logos Academy. Blake Kremsky is to my far right, and then Olivia Leslie is next to him. And I'll first introduce Olivia to you. Olivia, as I said, is an 11th grader at Logos Academy. She is the daughter of Krista and Roy Templeton. She loves running club. She's involved in their chapel worship team. She's in the York County Honors Choir. She also plays in a chess tournament, and she's also a national competitor in the Poetry Out Loud. And I didn't know what that was, so I had to ask her what she was doing with there. But she likes singing, playing the piano, learning Japanese, and I tempted her to greet you in Japanese, and maybe she'll do that. Painting, exercising and walking, and playing chess. Her awards and distinctions include Distinguished Honor Roll, Senator for a Day, which is a mock senate that their school runs, Poetry Out Loud contestant, and chess tournaments. Her career plan, she said she's not sure, but she's undetermined right now, but she wants to incorporate her Japanese language skills into her career. She thinks maybe international business in college, or maybe even to be a missionary. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Olivia Leslie.
Konnichiwa. Good afternoon. My name is Olivia. I am very excited and honored to be here today. Firstly, I want to thank the Rotary Club for having me here. And then I would like to tell you a little bit about myself, what has shaped me into who I am today, and what my goals are for the future. However, I'll start with a quote from a Canadian novelist named William Kinsella. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. Learning this distinction has been essential to understanding who I really am. From a very young age, I learned to be independent, self-motivated, and success-oriented. For most of my life, I associated my self-worth with the grades I got and the amount of praise that I received from others. While this drove me to be a determined student, it also led to a lot of comparison and low self-esteem. And while I was successful, I wasn't really happy. When I was in 8th grade, I found my faith in God, and I began the lifelong and rocky journey of self-discovery. Along with my amazing parents, whom I'm very thankful for, I also had a lot of teachers and mentors that helped me not only to understand that my worth is not the score on an exam, but that helped me to reframe my mindset and my values. I've realized that I, like many people, struggle to see the big picture. It's so easy to hyperfixate on our goals or on money or on our appearances. But no matter how much we improve those areas, it never really seems to be enough. Success does not lead to happiness. Happiness leads to success. So the question then becomes, how do we achieve happiness? And that's not an easy question to answer. But I found personally that I find the most joy from simply being a blessing to others. The power of service is profound. And that's why I believe that it is so important to serve others and to lift each other up, just like the Rotary mission statement, service above self. So again, I want to thank everyone for recognizing Blake and me as the students of the month. I intend to continue to be a leader and a blessing to as many people as I can. And if I can continue to find the joy in that success, then I think I can call my life a success. Thank you.
Our next student is Blake Krupinski. He also is an 11th grader at Logos Academy. He is the son of Kevin and Kasten Krupinski. He is the student body treasurer, yearbook editor, assistant captain of the Lancaster Freebirds, which I Googled, that's a hockey team, okay? Leader of the tech team for their chapel service. He likes hockey, airsoft, gaming, sports, and outdoor activities. He's been on the Distinguished Honor Roll every quarter since 9th grade, and he is the second youngest student in Logos history to take calculus. I didn't ask him if he passed it, but he did take it. His career plan, I think, is amazingly interesting. He wants to start a driveway touring business, is that what it is? And then sell that business. Then he wants to buy a second business. Then he wants to get an engineering degree with a minor in business. And then he wants to sell that business and then buy even a bigger business. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Blake Krupinski.
Time is long, but life is short. Stevie Wonder, the author of this quote, embodies his own words perfectly. Despite being blind from infancy, he won 25 Grammy Awards, the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, received an Academy Award, and was even inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. With his earnings from these accomplishments, he has supported 30 charities, including the YMCA, Stand Up to Cancer, and the Brain Trust. At 72 years of age, he was able to accomplish more than many have dreamed of doing in their lifetime. What does this have to do with me? No, I'm not blind. No, I wasn't born 6 weeks premature. And no, I don't have the struggles that he did. So what is holding me back? Stevie was dedicated to his goals and was able to flourish through them despite having a difficult childhood. My life was not nearly as challenging. I grew up in a small house in Dover, Pennsylvania, with my parents and my brother. Both of my parents are dedicated workers. My dad started his own business teaching young men and women like me to drive. And my mom, after over 30 years of living in America, was able to get her citizenship despite many complications. Their dedication allowed them to succeed in life no matter what was thrown at them, and they taught my brother and me how we are supposed to act. They taught us discipline, hard work, and many more lessons that I still use to this day, both directly and indirectly. At the age of 3, my dad took me to my first hockey game. He played hockey as a kid and wanted to show me the game I now love. It was a Hershey Bears game, and I immediately fell in love. The speed, the energy in the building, the physicality, it had my attention from the start. At the age of 5, I played in my first hockey game, and I have not stopped playing since. I've heard many times that hockey can't be my passion, especially in a work setting. Well, why not? Stevie had his music, Barack has his movies, and Oprah her talk show. They have other traits and other ways of expressing themselves, but their passions are what shape them into who they are now. Playing a sport has helped me not just grow physically, but also mentally and emotionally. It has taught me to be strong, reliable, loyal, trusting, hardworking, and persistent. Without my dad there to show me the thing that has taught me so many valuable lessons, how would I be who I am now? My dad encouraged me and helped me to shape me into who I am today. So who are you going to encourage? For me, it may be my friends, my sibling, my future children, or even coworkers. On average, humans live for 76 years. That is less than a century and is a tiny fraction of the time that humans have been alive. But men and women who have stepped up to the challenge of life have left a lasting impact on our lives today. With such a small amount of time, it is important to take opportunities like the one given to me today to expand our horizons and make a lasting impact on the people around us. I've only been on this earth for 16 years and have not yet been able to see my impact on this world, but many of you in this room have. This organization as a whole has seen a change in the community it fights for. I hope to one day look back and say, I did something. I encouraged people. I helped my community. With limited time on earth, that is something everyone can work towards. With the words of the great Stevie Wonder in mind, my goal is to leave a lasting impact past my time on earth. I hope to one day have children of my own, start a business that sustains for generations to come, and to leave the community I am in better shape than when I entered it. This event is just one step in the right direction. Thank you all for this opportunity. Have a great day.
Blake and Olivia, congratulations on your selection today. I'm trying to think when I was in the 11th grade what my goals were. I think it was getting my driver's license and making it to the 12th grade. You're a remarkable young man and young woman, and I have every confidence that you will achieve the goals that you've set out, and that our community, or wherever you find yourself living out life, will be the better for you. My congratulations to your parents also, and to Logos Academy for the role that both of you have played in forming these two remarkable young people. So let's give them a round of applause again, please. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Sean Kenny, who will introduce our program and our speaker for the day. Sean.
All right. So this morning when I got up, my wife asked me what I was up to today, and I told her that I had the pleasure of introducing my friend Bill from York Ag. And I said, Lynn likes to have a lot of humor thrown into these introductions. So I was thinking with agriculture, I tell this joke that my uncle in Ireland told me, and it's about a young man who goes to a sheep farm in Scotland, says to the guy, I want to learn animal husbandry. So if you know anything about Irish humor, they always make it about Scotland for one. And then it's a long drawn out joke, but like a quick slam dunk at the end. And I got the slam dunk perfectly. And I looked at Laura and she didn't laugh at all. And I said, what's wrong? And she goes, Sean, I need you to make a promise. Whatever you do not tell that joke at Rotary today. And do not tell that joke ever again in your lifetime. So please don't ask about the joke. And our friend Bill Achor is originally from Virginia. And he went to Virginia Tech. And he came to Pennsylvania, which we were blessed, to work for the Lancaster Ag Preservation Board in its early infancy, which started the land preservation movement in Pennsylvania, which then went across the state and across the country. Lancaster is #1 in the country in terms of agricultural preservation. Bill came to York to work for York Ag, formerly known as York Ag Products, although he won't hurt you if you still call it that. And if you're like me, you might have driven along Roosevelt between the city of York and towards 30 And what I like to call the big country turn there goes by a building that's a gray block building that says York Ag Products on it. And you've probably driven by it hundreds, if not thousands of times, and probably thought to yourself, I gotta look up what that is. Well, let me Google that for you by bringing the president and CEO of York Ag up here to tell you that, because as he'll tell you, that country turn late on a Friday night might end up with people a little too aggressively on their property. So don't try to look at your phone and Google it. But I like to bring up Bill. He'll tell you all about York Ag. And I want to thank him for coming. And I'll warn you, how I got to know Bill was he comes to our Farm and Natural Lands Trust clay shoot, and he's always been one of the top shooters. So if you're thinking of leaving, don't think he won't notice. Okay, so thank you. Come on up, Bill.
Well, thanks, Sean. Because Jim's in the room here, Jim is a much better shot than I am. He shoots and breaks more clay birds with his eyes closed than I do with my head down and gun moving. So, in fact, I spent an afternoon with Jim one time showing me how it's done. And I was like, he said, you're a little here, you're a little there. And I was like, can you tell me more than that? He goes, no, you'll figure it out over time. So over time, I've been still figuring out about how to do that. And so it's great to see Jim here today, and great to be here. So, and also my wife and my mom couldn't be here, so they invited my banker. And I'm thinking, what the heck? So Lauren, my jacket and my boots is the increased line of credit that I asked for. What do you think? You think I'm doing okay? Beautiful. Okay, so appreciate the opportunity to be here, because the slide up there was up there ahead of me, was imagine. And at York Ag, we do a lot of imagining. In fact, we're a very curious people. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of get you guys jacked up here from the beginning, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want you to be just there wondering what it is. So every table has one of these. You can be curious. You can imagine what it might be. Now, we're going to just sort of leave it at that, and everybody's going to pass it around, and you're going to have your own ideas, but we're going to learn what that is a little bit later on. So as Sean was saying, I've been at York Ag a little over 12 years now. I was brought in someone as an apprentice. So you think about opportunities that are available to you, as was mentioned earlier about trying to take the best advantage of those. And basically I came in to do an interview, the interview was, we want you to be an owner. And I was like, I don't do ownership. I don't do that. I'm a worker, I'm in agriculture, I'm a business developer, I connect docs and all that. And they said, no, we don't want a worker, we want an owner. And I said, no, you didn't hear me. I said, I don't have money to do that. I said, oh, we'll figure it out later. So I worked a year. I'm going out to my car at the end of the year. And basically one of the gentlemen who was still there came up to me and said, hey, what do you think? And I was like, what do I think about what? And he said, do you like it here? And I said, sure. They said, well, we like you. I said, great. See you tomorrow. That was my year-end review. So just so you know, it may surprise you when you think about how things work out. And as we'll get a little bit going on here, you'll see just what happened in the history. But we start thinking about, life and opportunities, imagining what you can do, being curious, is what I say. So to me, as I look at this, and I'm going to hit the top one, that one, point it there, advance it there. There we go. So as all good teachers do, and I was never a teacher, but they said I should have been one, always have an agenda, okay? And you think about my introduction. So, Sean gave a little bit of that. Grew up in Virginia, went to Virginia Tech. Sorry about that. Couldn't find work in Virginia, so I came to Pennsylvania. So figure that one out. But I was always interested in agriculture. Basically, I was not raised on a farm. So basically, I learned everything I learned about agriculture from a guy with an 8th grade education. So he taught me everything about pig production. I learned from cattlemen out in the West about cattle production. So the people I surrounded myself were people who were smarter than I was. So we started thinking about, your history and what you have to do and where you have to be. Basically at York Ag, that's really, who I was. I was always curious, always wanting to learn. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our process. the who, why, and how and what of who we are, our opportunity and focus, our culture at York Ag, our mission, visions, and values, and our summary. So just to kind of get you also going, can anybody tell me now, the guys in the kitchen gave me this. I don't know if this is hard boiled or not. Can anybody tell me what this is? An egg. Excellent, excellent. Wait, no, I won't do that. So basically what we say about York Ag, I should have had a picture of the building, but Sean described, it's a cinder block building. We've been around since 1988, but if you crack an egg within 500 miles of York, that chicken ate our ingredient. Now we can even say that our products go as far as Oklahoma, Texas, California, the upper Midwest, but our calcium product, which is how York Ag was built, basically on a coarse calcium material, mined in Virginia, shipped out to farms all around the mid-Atlantic. We go as far as northern North Carolina to central Ohio and up in New England. So if you crack an egg with that area, within an area, that chicken ate our ingredient. So when that ingredient goes away or breaks down, you can come join me to load trucks at 6 o'clock in the morning behind our office. We're loading trucks all day long to make sure our customers, which are our chickens, actually have an ingredient. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So basically York Ag was started trying to find an alternative to oyster shells. Can anybody tell me where oyster shells came from? Oysters, excellent. Any more geography specificity? Chesapeake Bay, correct. So basically, if how many like oysters? Raw, cooked, half shell, excellent, excellent, excellent. So I love oysters as well. So basically, as the industry was growing back in the 70s and 80s, all of the coarse calcium or the calcium that was used to make eggshells the majority of it was coming from oyster shells in the Chesapeake Bay. So the original owners, and yes, I'm sorry for the back of the room. I'll tell you what this is. Back in 1985, the original owners, Art McAllister and Dale Anderson were the two original owners. They started at York Stone. Basically, they were curious and they were trying to imagine what would chickens do if they couldn't get an oyster shell. Chickens are sad they don't get oyster shells because their eggshells become very soft. So you start thinking about that. So they started in 1985 trying to think what it was. They queried 500 quarries. They talked to 500 people. They found 10 that said, let's have a conversation. They found 5 that said, come talk to us. They found 1 that was willing to put the equipment in. So you think about what you have to do to get the answer. Sometimes you got to talk to a lot of people. So back in 1985, they found the quarry, they found the place, we found the calcium that they could make. Then they had to say, now, how are we going to convince the industry to use this versus oyster shells? Went to Penn State, did a bunch of things. They figured out for 3 years how to do this. In 1988, they jumped out of the airplane. Now, Dale jumped first. Art said, you're crazy. And then about 2 years later, he said, Art, come on, this is craziness, but this is going to be a lot of fun. So Art joined him. So 1987, they realized they couldn't do it by themselves. Hired Rich Ronick. Maybe you know Rich. Rich is still around here in York. He came to be more of the poultry person. A year later, they hired a dairy person to help on the liquid feed side. York Ag sells about 300 different products. As the 80-20 rule is, 80% of our income comes from about 10% of our ingredients. And if you talk to our operational people, they say, Bill, why are you selling something else? I said, because I can. And they go, can we stop doing that? I say, no. And then they say, well, how much money will this make? And I tell them, they go, okay, keep doing what you're doing. So that's what we do. So then in 2011, I came around. So I explained a story. And then in 2014, Rich says, I'm done. I'm going to retire. I was told about 30 days prior to his retirement that Rich was no longer going to be here after January 1. I was like, okay. So I went to Rich and I said, Rich, all these customers that are out there, are you going to introduce them to me? You know what his answer was? No, you'll figure it out. Right. Okay, so he left. So then I had a little conversation. They said, oh, you know what? Our bylaws say that we have to have 3 officers in the business and he's getting ready to retire. Are you ready to be an owner? I said, you remember that conversation we had a couple of years ago? I kind of showed them my empty pockets and said, oh, we'll figure that out. And they did. So I became one of the owners, about 5% in 2011. Then in 2019, Tom says to me, I'm going to retire. And I was like, okay. So then can you own a business only owning 15% of it if everybody retires? The answer is yes, I did that. So they retired. We had a few conversations and we started to figure out how we're going to do that. 2019, I hired Dustin Dreyfus, my operations manager. He came on, has done amazing things in getting our processes in place. We used to work with notebooks. Now we work with computers. He was the first one ever to have a laptop. To see the date, 2019. Okay. And he said, can I get a laptop? I said, why do you want a laptop? Aren't towers really cool? He goes, what happens if I want to work from home? I said, why would you want to do that? Guess what? COVID. If he had not done that, we would have been still writing things on the back of pieces of paper. So you start thinking a little bit about Providence to say, if he hadn't had that conversation with me, and all of a sudden we hadn't moved to laptops when COVID happened, we would have been still at the office trying to figure things out. We were able to go to our homes, be safe and secure, and keep running the business. And then in 2022, I became the 100% owner after all the people left and had to go find all the dead bodies. I mean, the piles of money. I mean, all the different rules and books and things I had to do. So that's what we had to do. So basically, a little bit of the timeline there. Again, our team. Now, reason it looks like I have two slides, because you can't tell anybody that this one is there. Oops. Okay. Okay, real quick. I'm only gonna leave a little bit of time. If you would realize how many times we had to take pictures under the trees behind our office. Oh, that doesn't look good. Hey, do it this way. No, I'm like this. My eyes are like this. And my glasses are doing this. Oh my word. It took about 32 shots to get everybody pictures the way they liked them to go on our website. Again, pretty small team. We just expanded with Emily in Indiana. If you don't know, Pennsylvania is the what number poultry state in the country? No, I wish. 4. Anybody know who number 1 is? Iowa. Thank you very much. If I had a prize, I would give it to you. Iowa's number 1. Anybody know number 2 or number 3? Think 2 slices of bread and peanut butter and jelly in between. Ohio's number 2, Indiana's number 3. So basically, Pennsylvania is one of the pieces of bread, kind of sandwiches the egg belt, we call it there. Emily is hired to work in Indiana to try to expand our offerings there in Indiana. So our process, people say, hey, Bill, why do you keep telling people what you do? Because I love doing puzzles upside down. Who likes to do puzzles? Who does them upside down? Start. It's amazing what you can learn how to do. So we walk by tables, we flip puzzles over, we do them upside down. Everybody says, I want to see the picture. I said, no, flip it over. We do it upside down. So basically we analyze things, we identify where they come from, we source the best ingredients and logistics and do this. We deliver them on time. Our biggest thing right now is the logistics, as everybody knows, and then we just repeat the process. So when you think about this, you think, well, that's pretty simple. How do you do this? Well, it takes a lot of discipline to make sure you do it the same way every single time. It doesn't matter whether I'm sourcing a botanical, a limestone product, a molasses, a vitamin or nutrients, which we don't do a lot of vitamins at all. But if we start looking at some of the products, we pull things out of Brazil, we pull things out of Europe. And so when you start talking about logistics and things like that, we have to do it the same way every time. So when we think about who we are and what we do, we're a brokerage business. We're always, the biggest thing is not to touch it. So if someone calls us with a problem or a solution or a need, we go find it. We don't ever say no. Now we're learning to say no, but on a bad day, I will never say no. On a good day, I might tell you no. But we go find it, we identify it, we make sure it's right, we make sure we can get it delivered, and we do it again. So we think about who we are. We're this dynamic supplier of holistic ingredient solutions focused on supporting animal well-being. What does that mean? Well-being, you ever heard that term before? What do you typically hear? Not well-being, you hear what? Health, animal welfare. When you think about animal welfare, what do you immediately think of? Say it again, louder. Stray dogs, okay. Well, we also think in many cases in animal welfare, there's a lot of antagonistic conversations go on. When you talk about animal well-being, it's usually we're trying to figure out a solution together. In our industry, animal welfare is not always thinking about the best use of the animal, the best behavior of the animal, the best housing for the animal. We have a lot of, opinions about how that's done. So we're always very much focused on animal well-being. So we're very, very innovative. We've been dependable for over 30 years. Art and Dale did an amazing job, carving this out of nothing and basically lining up suppliers all over. We basically supply feed manufacturers, livestock consultants, and animal producers, depending on the product, depending on the ingredient, is depending on what we're doing. We move about 180 truckloads of material a week, not from our little office on Roosevelt Avenue, but from all over the country, all over the world. And some of those are as expensive as $15,000 a pallet. Some of them are as cheap as $2 a bag. So some of our ingredients are in excess of $600 and $700 a pound. Some of them are $1.50 a pound. So that's the range of the products that we move through. So basically it comes to this part about curiosity. We have to be determined. We're a small shop, as you see. A lot of other bigger companies do what we do. But as we always say, you can come work for York Ag if you're honest, and if you show up to work, and if you're curious. And the last one is if you make mistakes. We love people who make mistakes. Why? Because it means you're doing something. If you're afraid to make a mistake, don't come work for York Ag. We make them every day. And we have to admit to them. We have to figure out how to fix them. And we have to figure out how to not make them again. But as we'll go a little further, you'll see we have a much more, COVID showed the consumer what a transparent marketplace was or was not. So we have to basically do our job to be able to make sure that our customers are prepared for that. So when you think about what we're trying to do is we're trying to enrich the lives of animals, of producers, our customers, and consumers. So for us, that's why we get up every day. So if you look at our areas of focus, you look at mostly layers, species, you think now, is there a pointer on this? Probably not. Oh yeah, sweet, no? That's right. Species, you can see that most of ours have feathers. If an animal, if a poultry species lays an egg, we take care of them somewhere in the United States. And then we have segments. We mostly do antibiotic free. We also do another category, it's called no antibiotics ever. We do some non-GMO, we do some organic, but the two larger segments that are transforming the animal sector in the United States right now are antibiotic free and no antibiotics ever. And our geography is obvious. We're here in the mid-Atlantic, but we're looking at the Eastern Corn Belt, the Midwest, the Southwest, the Central Plains, and International. In 2022, we just shipped our first product to Mexico and to Italy. And then we just got a repeat order from Italy. So we don't know, I don't know Italian, but maybe by the time you learn Japanese, maybe we'll have product in Japan. And come talk to us. Maybe that's be something that you could help us market material in Japan. So when we start thinking about what we're doing as a company, we do it. So when you think about how do we do this, we say we do this in our culture by mutual respect with one another and with our suppliers and with our customers. We're always trying to push appreciation. We do a lot of celebration at York Ag. It's a big thing about affirming each other. We can talk about it, but we have to do it. We also we have to learn how to be humble because we don't do it right every time. We don't have the right answer every time. And we have to have some courage because we have to be able to push through on days that are terrible and days that we don't know what's going to happen. And when I get that call at midnight to say you had to be in York to load trucks at 6 a.m. and I have 3 meetings that I have to cancel so I can go load trucks, it just makes for that. So we have to have the courage to keep going and also transparency with one another. Our curiosity is a big thing at York Ag. We're never arriving. We're always getting there. And that's sort of the idea of continual improvement. I talked about never saying no. Don't tell Dustin I have that on there because he's trying to teach me how to say no. He's actually given me a note card I can put in my pocket and I can doesn't have to come out of my mouth. That's really hard. And I can just show it up and go, And then everybody knows where I'm going. And one of the big things we have to do is anticipate trends. Trends with our consumers, trends with animals, trends with genetics, trends with global things going on. Will animals be eating corn and soybeans? Will they be eating vegetables, botanicals? What will they be doing? And so when you think about this, this is how we operate. Animals first, customers second, York Ag third. What do you think about that? Someone told me not to put that up there. I said, I'm the president, I can do whatever I want. So we have a bad day. We don't know what we're doing. If one of our employees makes a decision to make sure that truck arrives, no questions asked. Customer says, hey, what the heck? That cost another $300 to get that there. If it meant that the trucks had to get there to get the animals fed, no questions asked. At the end, we say, how did that work out for us? Did it work out good? Didn't work out very well? How do we fix this? Let's talk about it. But it empowers every one of our employees to think about the needs of the animals. That's why we exist, to make sure if we don't have customers, we really don't exist, and to make sure that we'll be taken care of as a company if we make sure those other two things are first. So this is what we are following all the time. Our founders showed us the path. Our job is to follow their footsteps. York Ag is where we have curiosity, creativity, collaboration, grit, and generosity. We think about generosity, it's not just about money, it's about time, it's about being kind. It's about answering another phone call or sending another email for the fourth time, and just being a little bit more compassionate with people. People are tired today, and if we can be kind, and if we can be a blessing to them, that's a really good thing, because that's something that makes us stand apart from other people. So there was a slide in there that got skipped, and I didn't realize this, and that is, okay, curiosity. What the heck is this? Okay, somebody at the table, I'll tell you what you have to do. You have to take this off. How much time do I have? 0? A minute or 2. There's a little plastic cap in there. Oops, sorry. Little plastic cap. If you can take it off, you're going to smell what this is. Whoever is doing this, it's a botanical, so it's not going to hurt you. But if you get it on your hands, it'll feel a little oily, and that's okay. It'll go away. And as people are doing that, what does it smell like for those who have been the first ones to uncap that? Don't drink it. You can smell it. You can taste it. You can do. So this is a brain modulator. You are holding a brain modulator in your hand. It's a blend of essential oils and botanicals. We affectionately call it chicken marijuana. Sorry. So it really isn't. It's not CBD, but we basically, it works in every species, including humans. It turns off the perception of stress. So yeah, now now people are saying, can you get me a gallon of this? So the point of it is that this is one of the emerging products out there that we deal with to mitigate stress in all species, pets, equine, poultry, swine, humans. We had a veterinary surgeon who was considering atomizing this in the waiting room for his orthopedic surgeons, for his pet parents. He said when the parents are freaked out, the animals are freaked out. He was like saying, we can take care of the dog and the cat. It's the owners that have to go home. So he was actually considering atomizing this in the waiting rooms to calm people down. So basically just shows that in that center block building there on Roosevelt Avenue, we're doing some pretty weird things. It's a lot of fun. Every day is new and every day is different. Again, if you're not doing something different tomorrow, you're probably not going to be around the next day. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks so much, and appreciate the time. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oof. I lost 20% of my business with it. Oh, I'm sorry. Avian influenza, the avian high path avian influenza virus. York Ag lost 20% of our limestone business from that. 20%. That's why. Right now in the United States, over 50 million layers have been put to sleep. 50 million. That's over 12% of the US layer population is no longer laying eggs. Price of ingredients, our limestone that feeds these eggs has gone up almost 100% in the last 3 years. So the price of inputs, no chickens laying eggs, and just the whole freight, fuel, it affects us all with that. Was there time? One more, Aaron? Yeah. Oh, okay. And another one? Yes, sir. Yes, yeah. So so the question is, do we have to deal with FDA? So because we're a broker, we rely on our vendors to provide us with ingredients with the proper certifications, whether it's an FDA. I mean, again, we tell people we don't do stuff in our garage. Those days are over. We're a FSMA approved facility, Food Safety Modernization Act facility. We have an FDA bioterrorism number. Think about that in York. So, we basically have to comply with that. In fact, right now, the AFCO book is actually more, the animal food industry, specifically pet food, is more highly regulated than the people food industry. So we have to abide by rules and regulations that if you're out there selling granola bars in the grocery store, there's less scrutiny on those labels than there are for us selling chicken feed and pet food. It's crazy. That's correct. Now, but we get those questions all the time, and we have to make sure that we're providing, because we deal with the largest food group in the world, Nestle Purina Pet Care. That's one of our customers. The largest food group in the world. And when they ask us a question, we got to answer it. So we have to make sure before we even suggest to them chicken marijuana, we have to make sure all our ducks in a row to make sure we can meet their compliance and their regulatory purposes. Yes, sir. Thank you, Bill.
So Bill, we just want to thank you for coming. That is going home with me. Seriously, it is always, for me personally, just such a delight. I love the beginning with the fact that we drive past this building hundreds, if not thousands of times. I think about that all the time in our community, how many small businesses, larger businesses we drive by, and the remarkable things that are happening that are employing York Countyans, that are putting us on the map in ways known and unknown. So Bill, thanks so much for your presence here today. We really appreciate it. Also, I knew about the Corn Belt and I knew about the Bible Belt. I did not know about the Egg Belt. Sounds pretty fragile to me, but oh, and by the way, Walt and Jody, take a note from our introducer on how he intentionally started without a joke. That I think, note to selves there. All right. In honor of Bill's visit with us today, he has signed the book plate in the book, The People We Keep by Allison Larkin, and we will be donating this appropriately enough to Logos Academy today. So thank you very much. Next week, our speaker will be Rotarian and President Commissioner Julie Wheeler. Julie is well known to all of us as both a fellow Rotarian and of course as a dedicated public servant in York County. Julie will be talking about the state of our county. And given that this is the place that we both work and call home, I know we will all be anxious to hear what she has to share with us next week. Our closing quote to round out the day perfectly, given how we began the day, is again from Dr. King, who said, "We must use time creatively in the knowledge that the time is always right to do right." Our meeting stands adjourned. Safe travels. Thank you, everybody.